What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we're talking more about Paladin, and basically in general my overall thoughts about the job and how it, really kind of feels in Stormblood. And spoiler alert, it feels awesome. So let's go ahead and discuss this thing. So if you've heard me talk about it on the channel before, or you've seen me talk about it on our streams before, basically it breaks down to Paladin was my tank of preference in 2.0. And in 3.0, that got replaced by the Dark Knight, which I really enjoyed, and even really enjoyed in Stormblood. In fact, it was the first tank that I took up to level 70. But in comes Paladin, or back comes Paladin. And all in all, the job from bringing in some AoE damage to be able to block magic with the shield, from just how it feels, especially at level 70, with just its new abilities and abilities like Passage of Arms. It feels so good, and I'm actually enjoying playing it way more than I was expecting to. And that's exactly where I want this job to be. I want it to be a tough choice between playing Dark Knight and Paladin for me. That's really what I'm looking for. Now, I'm currently leveling up Warrior, and I'm almost to level 70. It should be there hopefully within at least half a week at the minimum. And so Warrior feels good, but the charge that Warrior got doesn't feel as satisfying. And so that, to kind of just preview that a little bit here, it's more about the one thing I still feel that Paladin is missing as a part of their set is a gap closing ability. And personally, I was really hoping that they would get some kind of shield lob upgrade to where they shield lob and teleport into their target, but maybe that's going to be something we see in 5.0 or later. Somebody was saying, and I thought it'd be awesome, is that if they got the Noctis sword throwing ability where they would throw their sword and then they teleport to it, but that might be asking too much for the short term. But anyway, their abilities like Total Eclipse and their cooldowns, which on a side note, I do feel Paladins actually have quite a lot of abilities, and when you look at the cooldowns and when you bring in cooldowns from the cross roll system, there is a lot there. There's a lot of mitigation that you can have, and so it seems kind of funny to kind of discuss that here, but Paladins, I feel like the survivability of the job, as well as the ability to output damage, is on a really good even playing field. Paladins have 2 dots with Circle, Scorn, and Goring Blade, and it looks like the other tanks really kind of lost their dots, at least from what I can tell so far. Passage of Arms is on a 2-minute cooldown, and I talked about this in the 101 guide, but Passage of Arms, for its own sake, is able to be used multiple times in a run, and with stacking mechanics and with all these types of mechanics, it feels fantastic to be able to mitigate that damage for the entire party. Obviously if everybody's around you, etc. So I'm really enjoying that aspect. It looks cool, and it makes me feel like, wow, look at this, look at this awesome tank, making sure that he's trying to mitigate and protect as much damage, because that means that takes that pressure off the healers, and therefore if you're working with healers who like to do damage, that gives more damage output ability. So the raid utility, in my perspective, is boosted because every HP you don't have to heal or be healed is damage that could be potentially applied to the boss. And that's what I like. That's what I like to see. The breakdown and the thought that I have, and the question I don't have an answer for myself yet, is Paladin my new main over Dark Knight? Did I go Paladin, Dark Knight, back to Paladin? Where does Warrior fall in all this? I'm actually enjoying the job thoroughly as I level it up. How about Dark Knight? I've got it at 70. Dark Knight still feels fantastic in my opinion. And you can see my opinion, and I'll make sure to include the links in the description below for any of my past opinion pieces about any of the jobs. I honestly have to applaud Square Enix for this balancing act that they've done. Adjustments probably will still be made. Things will continue to kind of shift around a little bit as we go forward into the 4.x series, but as a whole, I'm happy to see Paladin where it's at. I'm happy to have a level 70 Paladin. Right now, I'm honestly thinking that it's going to be what I use more often over Dark Knight. Now, in PvP is kind of the only exception. I don't really care for the job in PvP. It's powerful. It's got a silence. It's got a stun. It's got a lot that it has going for it. But I just like Dark Knight way more in PvP with the draw-in effect, and then right now even Warrior with a heavy ability They just seem like a Warrior and Dark Knight combo, just seem like the team up that you are afraid to come up against. And Paladin obviously brings the ability to kind of shut down healers or casters as well. So there's that, you know, it's not an easy choice. I guess if anybody was asking me what should they play if they were looking at doing a tank, and that's an answer that I would honestly agonize over a little bit. I would say that each one brings their own. If you haven't cleared a Realm Reborn yet, the choice is really simple. It's, you know, probably Paladin right now, as I would say. But if you had cleared ARR and you had the choice between at least the three, I would probably, it would be a real toss-up between Dark Knight and Paladin. I think right now, personally, I'm enjoying Paladin over Warrior, but and I'm not trying to insult anybody out there who really is enjoying Warrior by any means. I think they're all really good, but the Warrior Charge mechanic, which I was excited about, which I was excited to see, doesn't feel as natural for me to be able to execute that. And that's where, you know, okay, it's just something there. I'm glad they have it. I was trying to use it a lot. You know, it just doesn't feel what I want it to do. On the downside of Paladin, you know, I'm kind of bouncing around from the different tanks. The Oath Gauge just kind of feels like it exists. It's interesting that it drives Sheltron and Intervention, because those are two abilities that you need, obviously, Oath Gauge for. So this is a great way to limit that, but it doesn't feel like we've got any more other abilities that can take advantage of it. It doesn't feel like there's any negative to sitting at 100 Oath Gauge, or that there's any benefit to sitting at 100 Oath Gauge. And so it's cool that it's up there. I use Sheltron like it's going out of style, so anytime that is available, I use that. Intervention is pretty cool. It does a 10%, you know, I guess shield on the target, and if you have like Sentinel or anything like that, it enhances it to like 50%, I believe. But for the most part, okay, cool. You know, it's so much more situational that I find myself obviously using Passage of Arms over that Hand Over Fist. Now, obviously, there are situations where that's just going to be helpful. Somebody's struggling, it's definitely a good ability. But again, just two abilities that are driven off the Oath Gauge and nothing more at the moment. So maybe that's going to be something we see expanded on later in the life of the Paladin. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. This is a pretty simple and basic video about Paladin as a job and how it sits in 4.0 thus far. I'd love to know your thoughts if you're enjoying Paladin, if you're enjoying tanking whatsoever, and if you've enjoyed any of my other videos that we put out on these guides. So my name's Brian, and this is Work to Game. Thanks so much for watching these videos. I do hope to see you in my next, and I hope to hear from you about Paladin and any other jobs as it goes, because I'm having just the best time having these conversations with you. But I'll wrap it up here, and I'll leave you guys to it. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Hey everybody, Brian and Chuck here for Work to Game. Chuck wants to tell you that you should totally subscribe to the channel, and that you should totally hit that like button. Oh, and then we also got t-shirts on sale for some reason. That's a little bit mean, Chuck. I'm not crazy.